Hello and welcome. My name is Tiffany Timmons, and this is 6 steps to building and leading a dynamic team. Now, you got into leadership either by accident or on purpose, but it's no accident that you're with us here today. Because if you want your team to get better, you have to get better. No team can outperform the limitations of its leader. And you've made a great choice to be with us here. Now, you've got a lot of choices every day. In fact, 35,000, some studies show, and some of those are conscious and many of those are unconscious. But your choice to be with us here today is going to help you get those ahas and those breakthroughs for what you need on your team. I'm going to define for you what a dynamic team here is just a minute. But first, I want to tell you who this is who this time together is really good for. Number one, it's great for leaders who have decided what got them here is not going to get them there. That now know if they want to get better, they need to do some things differently. Maybe they've got a growing team, they have more people, there's challenging personalities. The market is different. The second group that's really great for this are leaders who have leaders. A lot of organizations that I work with are entrepreneurs who have grown their business, and they've gotten to a point now where they have more leaders coming in that may have been promoted from within or brought in from the outside, but there's a disconnect in the way they're leading. And that leader of leaders wants to see their leaders hold people accountable in a way that engages them and overall meets the vision of the organization. So those are really those people are really going to find a lot of value in what we'll be talking about today. So we're going to be going over this book, You're Leading Now, a 6-step strategy for building and leading dynamic teams. And Forbes magazine states that 85% of a person's financial success is due to their ability to lead, negotiate, and sell and work within a team, while only 15% is due to technical skills. What we're talking about here today falls under that 85% category. Now, this is not a replacement for the technical knowledge you need to succeed in your field. What we will be focusing on, though, are those components of communication that will help you lead and sell. And I say sell because you've got to sell your ideas to your team. Don't think they're going to come along just because you told them what to do. So it's important that you can communicate to them in a way that they understand what's in it for them. We're going to get into a lot of that today. So I'm going to turn off my video here and switch over to PowerPoint so that I can walk you through more details of this program. And you're going to get a lot of information, but if you can pick just 1 or 2 areas that really speak to you, I think you'll find this the most beneficial for the time that we have together. So let's go on over here and I will start sharing my screen. Okay, and really exciting award that it just received is a 5-star award from Reader's Favorite for the book. So if you've had a chance to read the book or listen to the book, then you know some of the insights to it. And if you don't, that's okay. You're going to be hearing many of those today together. So I told you I was going to define what a dynamic team is. And this is it. A dynamic team achieves your vision. Look, I know that you have so much in your mind and your heart that you want your team to do. And we need to take what's in your mind and your heart and make sure that the team can do it. The very last stanza in the book says, a dynamic team has a vision they achieve. You now know the steps, so leaders go lead. These steps are going to teach you a process that is repeatable, that helps you identify where something's not working, and can also grow within your organization because everybody can know what the steps are. So other people on your team can actually manage up, and they can raise their hand at a certain point and say, hey, this is where I need help. How great would that be for you? Or your team can actually say, this is where I need help. A dynamic team is highly engaged. Now, there are lots of studies show us that there are two major components in a team being successful and being able to do all these other things like being growing and profitable, taking ownership, solving problems, not complaining, not using excuses, having trust, and sales and operations getting along. Now, I say that with a big smile on my face, getting along as best they can, because there should be a little bit of tension between the two. They're always going to be able to push each other farther than they would without, but we don't want the disruptive communication and relationship that does happen many times between sales and operations. But the two components that absolutely must be present for a team to be successful, number one is participation from everybody on the team. And number two, it's empathy. Doesn't mean we need to agree with people, but when people feel like they're understood, their trust is going to grow within the team. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. So knowledge is power. This has been something that has been said for years. I want to counter that though today with clarity is power. I mentioned earlier that if you take two things that are absolutely must-dos for you today, then this time has been absolutely worth the investment. An ancient Chinese proverb says that he who chases two rabbits eats nothing. And many times when I'm coaching people and working with them, I can say, you know what, are we chasing too many rabbits? We need to focus on what's most important and move forward with that one piece. Otherwise, time goes by and nothing gets done. So there is that process for building and leading a team and achieving the vision and goals, and you're going to learn that step-by-step process today. A quick note on myself and why I got into this. I live here in Phoenix. I'm 43. I've been coaching and training since 2005. I had the chance to start with the Zig Ziglar organization, and those are my 3 children and my husband. So 12 years of coaching and training and speaking on leadership and sales, I realized something was happening. I was working with teams and things would work. We'd come back, we'd high five, they'd be excited about the progress they were seeing with their team. And then little by little, they'd go back to doing the way that things they'd always done. And those results that we were seeing all of a sudden weren't working. So I took the step-by-steps that I had been teaching and I put them into the book. And then I put them all to rhyme, because people can retain when they remember in rhythm and rhyme with visuals. So this book is going to layer in a rhyme, then we're going to learn the why behind it, and then you're going to learn how to do it. Then you can always go back to the rhyme because now you know the rhyme. I also get to work with ASU as an adjunct faculty mentoring business ventures, and it's so much fun. On a personal note, I am a Food Network star and American Ninja Warrior wannabe. I mean, in my mind, I can do all that stuff, but then I go out on a gym set and try to do the monkey bars, and I can't do it. So those are some of the fun things that I enjoy doing, though, in my free time, cooking and working out. So why you're here today? You're probably here because you want to see your team grab on more to the vision that you have. And that's all about employee engagement. So why employee engagement? Why is this so important? Well, Dale Carnegie Institute shares that companies with engaged employees outperform those without by 202%. That's not a typo, folks. 202%. Now, I certainly don't promise that type of return. But what do you think would be the result if your employees were engaged? If they grabbed on to the vision and the goal of your team, and they took ownership of it, what do you think could happen? You know, you're in leadership. I'm curious if leadership has met your expectations. If what you thought was going to happen when you got into it has actually happened. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. What do we learn from that though? And how do we start shortcutting our learning to see results with our teams faster? Now, you might be thinking, you know what, Tiffany, this sounds great. Maybe it's worked for companies that you know, but it's not going to work for me. It's not going to work in my industry. It's not going to work with my people. In fact, you know, Tiffany, I've tried these things in the past and things didn't change. And if that's the case, then we need to look in the mirror, because a team will only grow as much as the leader grows. And that's from the book, Who Will Do What by When. But I had a very successful mentor when I first started in this business, and she would always say, a business only grows as much as the business leader. And that is so true. So what are you doing to grow and change? And what type of example are you setting and living for your team? Now, if really you think, though, that this isn't going to help your team, then you're probably right. This program isn't for everyone. And for anyone who thinks they know it all and you don't want to make any changes to your personal behavior, then it's probably best to just jump off now and go keep doing what you've always done. But if you believe that you are ready and that your team can and should be doing better, then let's get started, because you are ready to make the changes that you need to, and your team will see it. I absolutely promise you that they will see the changes in you, and they'll ask, what's going on? And they're going to want to be part of it. Okay, a couple house rules. If you want to blame others, the economy, your team, your environment, blah, 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 then this isn't good for you. And I mentioned before that what you learn here is not a substitute for product or market knowledge. But the best product knowledge and market knowledge will mean nothing if you don't have the communication skills to bring it to life. If you don't have the ability to get the team on board with you, that product knowledge and market knowledge is wasted. So this process is going to teach you how to hold employees accountable, how to increase participation on your team, which is a must-do for engagement, how to understand what your employees need from you, because everybody needs something different. And I love the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. But we've got to advance that now. That works when we're young. Now we need to understand what other people need and give them that. How to set and use expectations on your team. How to track progress for fundamental change. How to eliminate complaining and negativity on your team. How to attract and retain key talent. I've had organizations that really would have lost some of the best people on their team if we weren't using these tools that you're going to be learning today. The number one way to improve morale and genuine optimism on your team. Look, I love great attitudes, and they are absolutely essential, but we can't have a good attitude only to say, hey, I can do it, if it's something that we can't really do. I mean, if somebody needed an emergency appendectomy here, doesn't matter how positive I am, I cannot do that. But we want to have genuine optimism for the things that we can do. And you're also going to learn how to design feedback for long-term change and growth, and how to eliminate, oh, it was a communication mistake. Those cost so much money and so much time in your business. So why this process works, I've shared that it was born out of working with organizations who weren't retaining as much as I was hoping they would retain. And it works because of the rhythm and the rhyme. And companies that I work with, we actually go back, and it'll be a month or two later, but I'll pull out one of these rhymes and they get so excited because they remember it. Because the reality is that statistically, we retain oh, this is embarrassing, less than 10% of what we learn, unless we're actually doing it repeatedly. So hello, I'm in training. And if people weren't retaining what I was teaching them, then why would anybody invest in working with me? So I needed to make sure that we raised that retention rate. And we certainly have. Okay, so I'm telling the story here more about, which I've already shared with you, how this came to be, and changing and shifting into the retention with rhythms and rhymes, because I'm really big on ownership. And I'm big on ownership because it cultivates genuine confidence. I don't want to tell people, hey, you did a great job if it wasn't a great job. But if we can teach them how to do something and then they can go do it, that's where confidence is built. It's by doing it and practicing it over and over and getting better at it. And you probably would love your team to be able to take some ownership, because you could be out of the office and then you'd have confidence that things are going to run smoothly without you. So you can think of this like an advanced Dr. Seuss for business. We want it to be fun and engaging, memorable, and make a difference in how you are doing business. As we go through this, you might think at some point, oh, Tiffany, I don't do that. Maybe you don't. Don't stop there though, because your next level of thinking might be, well, maybe I've done that a few times. And then you might get to the point where you actually start to realize how it's holding your team back. And that's okay. One of my rules of the game, and I'm going to share a little bit more about how that works with you, is to be able to push reset. No matter where you are, it's important to always be able to push reset. I learned this, let me push reset and keep moving forward. We know that ideas are great and wisdom is great, but without any action, nothing happens. So back to that clarity that we talked to about the beginning, if you take one or two items that you are ready to take action on, then you are going to absolutely be glad that you were with us today. Now, this book can look really simple. And I've had so many people come, gosh, I got wrapped up in the rhymes and looking at the pictures. They go, and then I had to go back and go stanza by stanza, because each piece is brilliant, other people's words, not mine, in how much leadership knowledge that you can gain from it. And remember, every stanza in this book was born from actual experience, working with leaders who were going down this gauntlet with you. So one of the pages in the book, and we're going to get started right in here with the first piece of our steps. So there are 6 steps, but we have to have the foundation. We've got to have the foundation. And part of the foundation is this, is to hope just the key. Hope's not a strategy, although good to hold. It creates positivity and it helps you be bold. So many people will say, well, I hope this is going to work. My friends, hope is not a strategy. If we've done all the work we need to, then we can say, I hope. But we can't say hope at the start unless we've done the work to back it up. See, hope is the foundational quality of all change. Without hope, the salesperson won't pick up the phone call to call a prospect. Without hope, you won't keep going back to your team with ideas to use or recruiting new people. So hope is absolutely necessary, but it is not a strategy. So if a team doesn't have written goals, objectives, strategies to hit those goals, and timelines as to who's going to do what, then you are using hope as a strategy. And if you've done that, that's okay. A lot of companies grow without getting a lot of things written down because they're so focused on what needs to be done. But again, what got you here won't get you there. So now's the time to reevaluate and help everybody on your team to stop using hope as a strategy. This process is simple, but not easy to do. You can bet on results if you see it all through. The plan will need discipline, design, and desire. With the right mindset, your team will reach higher. Right there, with the right mindset, your team will reach higher. Now, we could spend all day simply talking about mindset. I'm going to give you a few that you can immediately take back to your team and start using. So when we talk about foundation and mindset, the areas that are so important for your team to take ownership on are this. Now, I learned this from Jack Canfield. I'll always let you know where I learned something, because if it's wrong, I want to give them credit. And if it's right, I want to give them credit as well. This formula, E plus R equals L, this stands for event plus response equals outcome. So many times people want to blame the event or the outcome. They forget that our response has a direct impact to the outcome. I had an organization in Columbus, and they were third generation. Their business had depended very heavily on the smoking industry. Now, this seems like ancient to say this, but this was what the reality was at the time. And they would provide in the vending machines in bars where people would get cigarettes. Now, that's all been banned and there's no smoking anywhere. But when the smoking ban came through, they lost 2/3 of their income. Third generation business, extremely involved in helping the community. They had a lot of employees that they were second generation, and that's it. They lost 2/3 of their income basically overnight when the smoking ban went into effect. Now, they could have responded the way a lot of their competitors did. They tightened things up. They laid people off. They went down to maybe family only or just the owner, or they went out of business. But not Schaefer. Schaefer said, we are committed to our employees. We're not going to lay anybody off. We are going to find a way to reinvent our business. And that's exactly what they did. They reinvented their business by creating other revenue streams, by becoming other resources to the bar owners that they used to sell cigarettes to. Well, now they brought a whole different business model to the industry. So the outcome, because of their response, was that they retained all their employees, and they now have even grown the revenue from where it was. But their response absolutely changed the outcome. You see, as individuals, we can either respond or react when something happens. Responding is being thoughtful, where reacting is going towards it's having a response that, or having a reaction that we go, ooh, you're either gonna have to say sorry for it, or you're sorry for the way you reacted. And it is our responsibility to determine how we respond. Responsibility is our ability to respond. So how are we responding? Steve Fawcett was the famous balloonist and aviator. And when he was flying a balloon over Libya, not friendly airspace, you can imagine his fear that if he's found, he's going to be shot down. And if there are any hot air balloonists out there, you will know the only way to change your direction in a balloon is to change your altitude. You've either got to go up or down and catch different wind in order to change your direction. So Steve Fawcett had to change his altitude to change his direction and avoid going over Libya. In our own lives, can't the same be said? If we change our attitude, we can change our direction. Changing our attitude can change our direction. And the attitude that we want to cultivate on your team is an attitude of solving problems, a growth attitude as opposed to a fixed attitude. Two very different attitudes that are going to completely change the way your employees respond to any event that happens. There are 3 keys to your leading now in making this program work. And I call them the 3 Ds: discipline, design, and desire. You see, the plan will need discipline, design, and desire. With the right mindset, your team will retire. And discipline, design, and desire are so important because the desire is why you're here. You know, Simon Sinek tells us to start with why, and that's a fantastic book. But we need to boil that down to your employees. Why are they there? Have you asked them? I have some owners that have gone back and have been aha'd by asking them. In fact, one organization found out that one of their employees that they were promoting to a manager, she had been working a second job, and once she was promoted, she quit that second job because she wants to be in this organization and grow. Oh my gosh, to be able to take that mindset is so powerful. But sometimes we need to actually have that communication as to why they're working for you. And then we need to find out their desire and their goals and what it is that they want to do. Once we determine that, then we can go into the design stage. And that's actually getting these down on paper and helping your employees have written goals within the organization as well as written goals for their life is so powerful. Because when your employee knows that you care about them, not only as an employee, but also as a whole person, you're going to get a whole nother level of buy-in that you've never seen before. And then finally, discipline. The definition of discipline is doing what we need to do when we don't feel like doing it. It's doing what we need to do when we don't feel like doing it. So it's instilling a level of discipline for yourself and for your team. That's what comes after we've defined the desire and the design. We can now start holding a level of standard when it comes to discipline. All right, so foundation and mindset, it's awesome. It's just awesome stuff. And we could spend so much on it, but I want to make sure that you get through these 6 steps today. So step 1 is vision, goals, and planning. And I have down there 90-day planning. And I'll share with you in a moment why that is so important. But this step 1 is all about how to get your team to take ownership of their part in the vision and their part in the overall goal that you have set for them. So step 1 is vision, goals, and planning. Step 1, start with vision. This guides your decisions. It keeps you focused to stay on your mission. How many decisions do we make every day? 35,000, I shared earlier. So when we're making decisions, are they aligning with where we want to be? You know, if at the end of the day, you or your employees say, oh, I'm exhausted and I don't feel like I got anything done. That means the decisions we are making did not align with our vision. If at the end of the day, you say, I'm exhausted, and yet you feel energized, then the decisions you made aligned with where you want to go. See, when you know where you want to go, you're going to be focused and energized. And when you're making decisions that align with that, that energy is going to continue to feed. Now, we all know the failure of small business is very high, and it's because of burnout. It's because of burnout. And what happens with a lot of small business owners, and I think this also applies sometimes to people on teams, why they will leave. You know, right now, the economy's strong. To attract and retain key talent, you've got to have something going on that other people don't. And helping your employees have clarity to what they're working to and helping them align their personal goals with the big vision is going to be one of those intangible pieces that will help you attract and retain. So Jack Canfield says that every time you share your vision, you strengthen your own subconscious that you can achieve it. And sharing it, doesn't mean you got to go out and share it with strangers, but when you're sharing it within the team, subconsciously, you are going to be helping everybody to make better decisions that work towards this. Now, this rhyme came out because I was working with a business owner who said, I don't know what my managers are thinking. Why are they making the decision to spend their time with this employee or to spend their time doing, being out in the field when they need to be doing more vision planning or whatever it is that he thought they should be doing. And I asked, well, how clear are they on what you want them to be doing? And the answer was pretty low. So we had to step back and get clarity on where he wanted, the vision that he saw where they wanted to be. You see, a common goal equals a motivated team. Whether this is a 5-year goal, a 3-year goal, or a 90-day goal, or a daily goal, a common goal equals a motivated team. People want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And when they understand where the common goal is, it will give them that personal motivation. So your ability to keep each person focused and productive and appreciated in your organization is going to drive your business or your team. I'm sharing a vision, or I'm sharing a picture of 90-day planning. And you might say, oh, Tiffany, I do a lot of planning. And I say, great. How does your team do on it? I'm saying everybody on your team should be working from a 90-day plan. So much so that they'd even want to take it home to their family and do it. I've had that happen. I've had an employee take this home, and with his family, they were planning a big trip to New York, wrote all of this out, and the entire family took ownership of planning a vacation to New York. Now, he would not have done this if he didn't see the value that it even brought to him within the business where he was working. The reason why 90-day planning is so key is that we overestimate what we can do in the short term, and we underestimate what we can do in the long term. And 90 days is an increment that we can focus within 90 days, we can plan for it, and we can keep checking in on it. Without a doubt, those teams that I'm working with who put a 90-day plan in place and check it frequently get bigger and better results. There's so much that goes into planning, and it's easy to gloss over it because I got to tell you, it's not always the funnest part. It's not always the most fun piece of what we do, but it is one of the most impactful. So the process that I have for taking you and your team through planning is going to open up. It's like this flower opening up, if you see it on Fast Forward, where it's a little bud, and we bring it open because we realize the beauty that's in it, and we realize the strength that we have from within when we can stop the noise from the outside and really clarify what it is that we can and that we want to do. And when everyone on your team is following this and you're actually checking in with them on that plan, oh my goodness, the ahas, the BFOs, and then the motivation that comes from it, it is really something. The only way to understand it is to live it. You must understand others and what they need. Each person is unique. You will learn what this means. Talked quickly about the golden rule earlier, but I want to make sure that you live the platinum rule. It's understanding what other people need. It's so important for you to understand your team members and then to give them exactly that. So I'm going to run through this quickly just to illustrate for you what the 4 different styles are. Most people are going to be a combination of 2. And you're going to hear these and go, I see this person. Yes, I see that one. I had somebody attend a all-day boot camp that I did on this. And a year later, I ran into him and he said, I don't keep anything up on my board except for this handout with all the details. He said, because it is so helpful when somebody comes into my office or they leave, and I understand how to follow up with them. And then I understand how to meet with them the next time. All right, so let me share those with you. Our orange character up here, this person is fast-paced and they're task-oriented. They are the kind that says, stop complaining about the labor pains and show me the baby. This person is direct. They are bottom-line oriented and they make decisions fast. They think fast. They're always saying, what's next? What's next? Our green person is fast-paced as well, but they're very people-oriented. They're charismatic, they're outgoing, they're all about energy with people, and they want to be liked. Now, our purple character is more cautious, much more thoughtful, and people-oriented. They're all about the team. They're really good at finishing the task. They're great supporters. They don't like to make decisions fast, though. They're a little bit more reluctant to speak up. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't or won't, but they're more reluctant. So it's important that you, when you have somebody like this on the team, that you pull out their participation until they get to a comfort level where it happens naturally. Now, our last character down here is black and white. And they're black and white because that is the way they think. They are task-oriented and cautious. They're at a slower pace. They are very exact. They're objective. They're analytical. They're skeptical. And they need the proof before they'll make a decision. So when you have a team of different personalities, and you should, behaviors, not personalities, when you have a team of different behaviors, how to manage them and how to pull out each person's strength, there is a science to it. And what's fascinating about this is that this was actually developed in BC. The first writings that we have found where observation of behavior was written down was in BC. And now with the technology that we can scan and see the way people's minds are working, we've realized how accurate it is, and we've taken it to the next level. So when I work with people and within their teams, we not only identify each person, but then we start figuring out how to best communicate with them at different times. And there are breakthroughs on appreciating each member of the team, because if you don't appreciate them and learn to meet them where they are, communication is going to have a breakup instead of a breakthrough. All right, so that is step one, vision, goals, and planning, and understanding each person on your team. Also in step one, and I didn't get into this too much though, it's really honing in on the one-on-one development within your team, because 80% of a reason why somebody stays in your organization and wants to move up in that organization is their relationship with their direct supervisor. So that one-on-one relationship is important to get the right attention. And I said the right attention. We don't need just to chit-chat in that time. Maybe, depending on the behavioral style, we do need to have a focus as to how we're helping that person grow. Okay, number two, step two is buy-in and commitment. This is about how to get commitment through listening and taking that one-on-one development even further. So step two is a shortcut. It's easy to take. It's to save time, you might say, but that's a mistake. Get your team to commit. Don't beat around the bush. Be direct and clear with maybe a gentle push. We are designed to accomplish, believe, and achieve. Make sure they can answer, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? This is what's so important, to ask questions as to how they see themselves being part of this goal. And ask the questions, how do they see themselves being part of it? And why is it important for them? But when we talk about that team commitment, I have a CEO who he'll say to me, Tiffany, I remember years ago when we were going through this, and he said, you shared with me the importance of getting my team member to write down what it is that they were doing and to have them say their commitment. Because just because you've told them doesn't mean that they've committed. And he said that has just changed his organization. When they leave a meeting, he'll say to that team member, okay, go ahead, write down what we've discussed and send that back to me. Because what happens? Now that person has to take ownership of what was discussed. They've got to think through it. Again, they've got to put it in writing, and they've got to push send, which makes them take ownership of it. So remember, on step 2, if you haven't heard that guy or gal commit, they haven't committed. And don't assume that they're on board just because you've told them what to do. Telling isn't selling. We've got to get them their commitment, and their commitment is in writing or saying it. And then if you have to write it down and reconfirm with them. So a lot of things that we can do in there. Also on step 2, I like to make sure that we focus on NICE, and you'll see that acronym in the book. NICE means nothing inside me cares enough. So we don't want to let people get away without pushing themselves to a certain level. There's a balance, but people are designed to accomplish, right? Believe and achieve. So we want to make sure that we can help them do that. All right, moving on to step 3, which is play the game. This is all about creating a culture of no complaints and no excuses. And this came about because I worked with an organization actually for over 3 months. And this was the whole focus, moving away from any type of complaining and excuses. And we had to really change the way we thought about complaints and how we thought about excuses, because they really become so much a part of our culture, and they can become part of a team. So step 3 is play the game and execute. Step 3 is the time for your team to show heart, execute the plan right from the start. Put all of your efforts into reaching that goal. No excuses, no complaints. Show your heart and your soul. This is a short chapter in the book, but this is a very intense piece to really start to live. How do we start moving away from excuses and complaining? You know, negativity costs billions in our economy. In fact, the #1 reason for doctor's office visits is stress. And the #1 cause of stress is coworkers complaining. We spend too much time with the people on our team to have a culture that causes bad stress. All right? I think there's good stress, and there's an adrenaline that needs to be put into place, but not the negative. Again, we want to make sure that we're creating that growth mindset, which is focused on solutions and how we can improve. So I'm curious about some of the excuses you hear. I hear a lot from different people. Sometimes, though, it's simply time. I didn't have time to do it. So really helping people move through the excuses. And let me give you one quick tip on how to do it. It's very important when you are coaching people through excuses that you are using a low and slow tone. Remember, when we're coaching people through excuses, we don't want them to get defensive. We want to help them move forward with a growth mindset. A question to use here is this: have you thought about what you're going to do about this? Have you thought about what you'll do about this? And it's ending with a period instead of a question mark. Listen to the difference. Have you thought about what you'll do about this? First, have you thought about what you will do about this? When we're coaching people, question marks need to be thought of like periods. And then after you ask the question, you are silent. You allow them the space to think about how they can move forward. I've had countless leaders come back to me and share when they used this question, how it changed the dynamics in a relationship, especially from somebody who was really stuck and using excuses. Lots of tips and tools that you can be learning in step 3 about helping people move from complaints and no excuses. All right, on to step 4, which is measuring results. This is creating a scorecard that inspires results. I'm curious if any of you have scorecards out there, and if you do, how do you like them? I had an organization one time say, oh, I know we need a scorecard, but they won't like it. My employees won't like it. Now, believe it or not, the employees ended up loving it once we got it into place. If you have a scorecard, right now I want you to give yourself a little grade on 1 to 10 on how well you're using it. And if you don't have a scorecard, how do you think tracking measurables could make a difference on your team? My last question is, how do you celebrate success? And is that important? I'm going to show you why it is. Now on to step 4, which is keeping the score. It's seeing your progress to now from before. Measure goals in a way that is open and fair. A scorecard keeps track of results you can share. For what gets measured gets improved, so numbers are a must. Define and use it well. Don't let it gather dust. So what should you measure? Well, John Jones says, what gets measured gets done. What gets done, let me start that over. What gets measured gets done. What gets measured and fed back gets done well. And what gets rewarded gets repeated. So again, what should you measure? Well, when I walk people through the program, I have over 100 different things that you can be measuring. But quickly, let me share this. It goes back to your goals. Measuring the activities that are going to go into those goals. I've been spending a lot of time, though, studying goals within the teams that I'm working with. And when I first start working with them, they might have them, but they're not using their plans. And the reason why I have discovered is because what they're measuring doesn't create any excitement from them. They don't feel pride in measuring those things. So let me share with you one thing that an organization I work with, what we shifted from. So they were measuring outbound phone calls, right? You had to make 60 outbound phone calls a day. And it was tedious to them, and it didn't give them any real joy in what they were doing. So instead, we started measuring viable prospect conversations. Conversations were fun for them. So we shifted the focus from only how many dials are you making to how many conversations are you having? Because really, we weren't worried about how many dials. We were really worried about the conversations and the quality of those conversations. What were the next steps? How many of those were going to the demo step in the sales process? And when we started focusing on the viable prospect conversations, we saw the ahas open, and now those people making calls started thinking, well, maybe I should call between 9 and 10 in the morning, or I should be calling between 8 and 10. And they started thinking through different scenarios as to how to get to those viable prospect conversations. So they took more ownership of the number than they did when it was simply how many dials are you making. Celebrate success along as you go, seeing what's done. Watch how it grows. We absolutely need to be able to celebrate success. Encouragement ends up being it sounds fluffy, and yet it ends up being one of the biggest components in making sure that people stay with something. I've had so many organizations that get frustrated, rightfully so, because they bring in sales professionals and they're paying fair bases, and yet people will quit early on. They'll quit within a year. And we found if they stay for that year and a half mark, they're much more likely to stay, but they don't stay for that time. So we realized we need to start focusing on the progress they are making and helping them understand what that progress is and how valuable it is to building that business. You know, once they hit that year and a half mark, things really change. So celebrating progress is fundamental to change. So whether you're looking at simply sales numbers or you're looking at changing behavior and habits, because when we change our habits, our life changes. We want and absolutely need to be able to celebrate that success along the way. All right, so when we're taking a look at what we are going to be measuring, KPIs, whether you, oh, there's a nice typo there, whether you use them or not, let me define this for you. A KPI is a key performance indicator. They must always be easy to understand, be relevant, and give the holder of the KPI the ownership to improve it. Right there, the ownership to improve it. If they cannot influence it and it's too dependent on other people, what's the motivation there? How can they really grab a hold of it? Remember, we've talked about ownership being so important. Why you should have them, and this is from the book Traction. In that, Gene Wickman states that numbers create accountability. Accountable people appreciate numbers. Numbers create clarity and teamwork, and you can solve problems faster. Would you like to be able to solve problems faster? Now, every team is at a different place when it comes to where they are in regards to their scorecard and how to utilize it best. But you know what? It doesn't matter where you are. It matters that we're looking forward in how to improve it. So wherever you are right now, you're in the right place. Your job is to figure out what is that next step, or our job together is to figure out what that next step is and what you can be measuring and what kind of KPI you can put in place to help somebody to be accountable for it. And those people who are accountable are going to love it. So why should you have KPIs? It's going to create accountability. It's going to give ownership to employees for what they can improve. It creates clarity, and you can celebrate progress. It's hard to celebrate progress when all we do is say, how do you feel? Many people will, and that's okay. A much better way, though, is when we have our plan in place, right? We've designed our plan, our discipline, design, and desire. We've designed our plan. We're using our discipline to follow our plan, and now we're ready to celebrate progress. Because celebrating progress is fundamental in the psychology of change. That's what Matthew Kelly says. It's fundamental in the psychology of change. You're here because you want things to change on your team. And we've got to get to the psychology with your team members to make sure that they grow and change with you. Another part of progress that I teach is how to move from that overwhelming to-do list and move to a done list. This is fun. It is so much fun to do with people because we get really borne down, or we get so bogged down sometimes on the things that aren't getting done, and we can really become overwhelmed with it. And your team can too. So being able to understand how a done list works and using this tool is extremely powerful and feeling a sense of accomplishment. So I love numbers along with the other guys, but I also believe in intangible goals, such as I want to become a better leader or become a better parent. And there are ways that we can use those in our goals program, and there are ways to celebrate progress with these as well. All right, so as we leave step 4 and we move to step 5, I want to leave you with or transition you with a quote by Henry Ford that says, "Don't find fault, find remedy." So in step 4, we've been keeping the score. Now in step 5, this is all about the debrief. This is evaluating effectiveness and building a culture of gratitude and learning how to handle difficult conversations. So in step 5, we learn how to do a very effective debrief, group meeting, or one-on-one meeting. The big step here the big part here in this step 5, though, are the critical conversations. See, critical conversations happen every day, and you either have breakdowns or you have breakthroughs. And the more breakthroughs you have, the stronger your team will be. All right, so we've talked about, our attitudes can take over and ruin relationships. But after you learn this phrase, hopefully it will not happen again because we're putting a good plan here. Okay, so starting right now, you can start to have more effective conversations if you dig for solutions, you're empathetic to someone's feelings. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with the way they feel. This came from working with a business owner, about 200 employees, and he was going to have a critical conversation with one of his directors. He was very frustrated. Her feelings were hurt. He was frustrated with the way she felt. But the way he started off the conversation was, "I'm sorry you feel this way." Now, he didn't feel like he should have to apologize for what he did because he didn't think that he was wrong, but he was truly sorry that she felt that way because of what he had done. So he was honest and genuine in his conversation. She did feel like he was empathetic to the way she felt. And then they were able to start digging for solutions to the problem. So this is the verse in the rhyme that came away from that interaction with that owner. And this is, dig for solutions, empathetic to feelings, but don't let attitudes run away with the dealings. And I will be able to teach you 5 different conversational frameworks that can help you do exactly this, that can help you be empathetic with somebody and to dig for solutions. Another key part is building a culture of gratitude. Notice the positive, no matter how small. Good builds on good, and good builds our morale. This is such a fun step because I show you about 100 different ways that you can actually show gratitude to your employees. There's so many different ways, and we think, well, it's just saying thanks, or it's only writing an email. And those are important. Don't stop doing them if you're doing them. But it's probably not getting done enough. And I share this because I've done a lot of 360s with managers and leaders who thought they were thanking their team, but when we asked the team did not seem to hear it in the volume that the leader thought they were giving it. So there are a lot of specific steps that we can take here for you to bridge that gap and make sure that the employees feel the appreciation that you want them to feel. All right, step 6 is constructive feedback and appropriate consequences. How to use feedback for improvement consistently. The consistent piece here is the biggest challenge that I find people fall into. Because we need to give constructive feedback and consequences if they were outlined to start with. And it needs to be consistently done. I think in human behavior, consistency is one of our biggest challenges. And it's because of distractions. We are so distracted. But the consistency is what other people see. Many times we will think we're more consistent than the way other people see us. Integrity becomes a very big piece of this whole program. and the integrity of doing what you say you're going to do. And this is done through consistency. So feedback should be designed to help things improve. If your plan didn't work, try new ideas to prove. When your employees know that this is done consistently, a whole nother level of respect is built between the two of you. Because leaders have choices between this and that. Will you hide in the shadows or go into combat? We have so many choices. Van Gogh said that great things are not done on impulse, but by a series of small things brought together. That's what this 6-step program is all about. It's about bringing communication points and bringing accountability and bringing responsibility all together so that you can do something amazing with your team, with any team that you are part of. So I'm going to switch this off. If you have found what we've done here to be of value for you, then a next step might be exactly what you want to take. And I'm going to turn off the show here and I'll go back to my video to let you see this. So there are 3 different ways that I work with organizations or individuals. And if you, the next step would be a one-on-one conversation, because we need to make sure that it's the right fit for you. I'm really big on fit. And that means focused, inspired, and taking action. We need to get the right fit for you. And what we would determine in a one-on-one conversation is if the group training might be something that works for you. And in that, you would be in a group with other leaders. It's a cross-section of leaders, usually from all over the country, but we come together consistently so you can share with them challenges you're having, hear from them. And then you also go through the 8 modules that this program consists of. So that's one option. The second might be something very individualized for you. Maybe that's one-on-one coaching or specific group coaching for you and your team. Now, the third one is my newest program that I have, and that's simply all the training. It's not working with me one-on-one, but some people want to get all these tools that come from this program. Now, the investments run anywhere from $300 up to $2,000, really depending on what it is that you want and getting you the right fit. So if you would like to take action from here, well, 2 things I hope you take action on. One, the BFOs, the blinding flashes of the obvious and the ahas that you got today, I hope you take those and use them. Go ahead and give them a try. See how they work. The other action is for us to connect one-on-one. Let's talk about you, your organization, the specific challenges that you're facing, and see what plan we can put into place for you. Because I know that you have such a desire to grow in your leadership and or have your leaders grow in your organization. There's a vision you want to achieve, and I want to help you get there. At the end of any time that you spend with me, you're either going to say, I'm glad I did, or I wish I had. And I hope that you are always saying, I'm glad I did, because I'm taking away pieces that I can start to use in my business and my life. Again, I'm Tiffany Timmons, and I'm so excited you were with me here today. So go ahead, shoot me an email, say, yes, let's chat, and we will get together either a Zoom call or one-on-one phone call to talk about you and your business. Until next time, I'm Tiffany. Thank you for joining me today. Bye-bye.